Welcome back to another exciting episode of Cyber Defense TV. I'm your host, Gary Malewski, and the publisher of Cyber Defense Magazine. Sitting in my hot seat today is a very special guest. Bryson Bort is the CEO and founder of Scythe, which he's going to tell us how to get to his website, maybe at the end. Tell us, Bryson, welcome, and tell us what Scythe does.
So, one of the biggest problems that I see in the cybersecurity industry is we have a lot of nerds who are providing nerd solutions to nerd problems. But turns out most of the rest of the world, they're not nerds. So how do we know what works and what doesn't? And that's what our platform is ultimately going to bring to the industry, is the ability to say what works and what doesn't in security, and not just the technical side, but also people.
So hold on a sec. I want to simulate an attack on my network and see how my people behave.
Yep.
You enable that with your technology.
Exactly.
How do you do that? How is it deployed? Is it in the cloud? Is it an appliance? Is it inline? Are you creating fake malware that's defanged? Or how does it work?
So when folks talk about defanged malware, they're usually looking at, like, I found something in the wild, I reverse engineered it, and I made it safe. But that has the problem of, again, what we see in security, which is, wow, I got surprised again because I figured out yesterday and then tomorrow something new happens. And so why do we keep getting into that Groundhog's Day of surprise? And what we found is we can box the entire attack space in a certain area. Once an attacker gets access to your enterprise, they always do the same two things. They need to communicate, and they exhibit certain behaviors through capabilities to accomplish their goals. So if you think of those as two axes.
So communication for data exfiltration in and out,
or
get
command
in
and control. Yeah.
And then data, and then the other one is
capabilities, behaviors, right? If you think about it, attackers always do the same things over and over again.
Why are we letting it happen?
Why do we keep letting it happen?
Groundhog Day.
Yeah, Groundhog Day, because we've never figured a way to box it in that concept, and then we never figured a way to go, well, how do I take that concept and continuously throw it on my production environment? That's what our platform does. And so the way that I like to simplify that is, there's been this promise of the threat intelligence market sector, right? Like, they're gonna tell us what's gonna happen tomorrow. But what do they actually give us? We now turn
yesterday's data.
They give you yesterday's data, and it's static, right? Like, this hash of this bad thing that came from this place. Well, what's it going to be tomorrow? Something different. I'll tell you then. Well, how do I get ahead of that? How do I get into that loop? How do I go to the board and say, I've mitigated this risk? Don't worry, we'll continue to produce cookies because that's what we do. The best chocolate chip cookies out of Nebraska, and say that with a straight face, because none of us in the security industry actually can. And so what we're doing there is going, all right, we know that these are the only ways they can communicate, and we know these are the things that they're going to do. So we allow you to combine those together. We call it synthetic malware. So instead of taking something we see in the real world, we look at way it talks, what it does, and we create those as what I call Lego pieces. And you just assemble the Lego pieces and then see what happens on your enterprise with your people interacting with it.
How many malware, let's call it behaviors or patterns, have you detected to be able to simulate so far? And is this an exponential problem, or it's limited because there's only so many things they want to do? I want to create a rat. I want to get in and remote access Trojan. I want a spear phishing attack. I want a covert data exfiltrate by faking an HTTP GET when I'm really posting. I mean, is there only so many things you're seeing because they're getting lazy, or it's very complex, but it still boils down to so many patterns of final behavior?
So that's one of the things I've been thinking about for a long time, is why is cybersecurity this one space that we feel that the attacker knows us better than we know ourselves? In communications, the defender, the enterprise, is actually dictating that space, because you only talk so many ways on that enterprise, right? And you get to choose that. We only allow this protocol or this protocol or this protocol. And an attacker can't bring something else to the table, because it's either going to be blocked or it's going to stick out like a sore thumb, right? I don't have to know you're speaking Russian when you run by, other than to know that we're all speaking English and that's another language. And so things like that stick out on that side, and it's actually the defender who chooses that, which is, I think, a really interesting concept. So going to what we cover, it's really in your question of, it's an exponential answer, because how many different ways can you put these pieces, and there's so many variables that you can choose around those pieces. And that's part of why we have a catalog. So users that are more on the blue side, who are sysadmins, who are SOC, who aren't the expert hackers, just sort of select and go, and it does it all for you. And then on the more advanced user side, we have that ability where you can get all the way to, like, I want HTTP traffic to be doing this, and I want it to have this kind of heartbeat, and I want it to be doing this kind of thing. So we had that flexibility both ways. And then the other thing that we do, and this is why I like the Lego metaphor, is I think there's no worse position being than waking up, reading something in the news and going, when will the vendor give me the ability to test this, right? When will they give me that playbook? Why do I have to wait for that playbook? Well, with ours, you can build your own Legos. And just like Legos, they all work together.
Customize some simulated malware behavior.
Exactly.
Have you heard of MITRE's ATT&CK?
Yes.
Are you involved in that? Are you keeping an eye on that?
Of course, MITRE ATT&CK is a part of how we do the taxonomy, both from a generation and a reporting of our attack simulation. One of the things that we do that I think is particularly interesting is, and this is where our attack simulation is differentiated from what most people might see in industry, is our attacks are real attacks in that if I have a box of the MITRE ATT&CK that I'm testing, just like a real attack, that box is going to inform another box, which is going to inform another box. It's an iterative operation that moves, grows, learns, just like a real attack does. It doesn't go, how did this perform on this box? And then separate from that, how does it perform on this box with no connection between those things? And one of the things we do that I think is really cool is you can go to the MITRE ATT&CK framework and go, I want to do this thing. And our platform will give you all the options that are available for that box, and it'll automatically build the payload from that. So the synthetic malware will be generated from the attack framework, from those particular pieces, and it'll build it for you.
Now, you and I earlier, before our interview, were talking about something which leads me to, I'll call it American exceptionalism. You're a veteran-owned business.
Yes.
So you, the founder, are a U.S. veteran.
Yep.
And you're trying to bring back some American exceptionalism into cybersecurity. So you're on the battlefield. You're against the Russians, the Chinese, and now we have the Israelis trying to compete with you, but you've really invented something pretty amazing.
I believe so.
How often does it get updated? How often do I update my VM?
So we push out regular updates where we're continuing to add additional platforms. So we now cover all the major operating systems. But going back to, we don't want to be where you're waiting on us as the vendor for something. Part of what we're also starting to push out, and this will kick off in 2020, is a market ecosystem. So we have a lot of consultancies that we've been adding into our customer roster, and these are the folks who do penetration testing and red teaming for a living. And they have a lot of incentive to build out threats and modules. And so what we're going to do is offer a place where we provide the quality control to make sure that those work, and then customers can now benefit from the community driving the development of whatever the latest state of the art is for particular kinds of communications, particular kinds of threats.
Crowdsourcing simulated malware.
Yes.
This is going to be explosive in 2020.
Just not on your network.
I was going to say, this is great. So I would hope the U.S. government watches this video. We have a lot of government viewers because I think they need your solution most of all. Mid to large banks, there's some significant sized credit unions, insurance companies, healthcare providers, they're all under attack on a regular basis.
Well, stay tuned. We might be having some public announcements of customers in every single of those categories that you just mentioned in the next couple of months.
Well, on that note, where should our viewers go to learn more about your company? Spell it out, would you, sir?
So our website is scythe.io, SCYTHE.io.
Bryson, thank you so much for a wonderful hot seat interview. You made it through the hot seat, and I learned a lot about simulated malware and how I think we can improve what we're doing on our networks by getting one step ahead of the next threat. Come back next time for another exciting episode of Cyber Defense TV.